Boom! Let's Be Honest podcast, Modest podcast, Baddest podcast, and the saddest podcast. And today, we're doing something new. We have a labourite in the house. Today, we have Minister of Health, Christopher Tufton in the house.
Respect.
All right, so I want to say. All right.
So like you come under attack for being one-sided, you know?
You know, I'm not one-sided.
You create that narrative a while ago, so I have to say it.
No, man, no, I do an episode and I reach out, right? Did I not reach out? I reach out and I say, listen, I don't want the thing look too one-sided kind of day. Who can do the best for Jamaica? Is it me? So I want to hear from both sides.
We work with that.
But before we start, you know already, ding.com, LBA75 is the code. Get some credit and send to your loved ones. Minister Tufton, how you doing?
Good. Got tired, but you know.
Yeah. I'm kind of obsessed with our first interview because normally me and my life forget like the bio or somebody or I'm getting to them occupation and everything. But it's election time, so I've got to go right into it, right?
All right, fair enough.
Why should the people vote for the Jamaica Labour Party?
Good question. And I think it's a fair question. So you start off good. Why? Because we have a track record of performance for the people. I think one of the differences between us and the other side is that we have started our campaign not by highlighting promises to deliver, but by highlighting commitments that have been delivered on. Our first document that we put out, deliberately so, mass produced, mass distributed, 140,000 copies. We showed over 250 achievements from the people's perspective. I'm talking about rural water, 300,000 people who never have it. I'm talking about 500,000 people who never got trained, young people who have skills. I'm talking about poverty, the lowest it has been, unemployment, crime down, 30-year low. You know, when you represent people, it must be about the people. And incumbency has to explain its legacy. And I think we have explained that legacy. And if our legacy makes you better off, or at least you see signs of being better off, then we leverage that to say, give us a chance to continue to complete the program. So that's the essence of our campaign, and it has been well received. So we ask for the trust based on what we have done over the last 9 years. Not perfect, you know, don't get me wrong. There are many little gaps that we have to fill. That's the nature of the dynamics. We never know whether we'll have COVID. We never know we're going to have, you know, all these, you know, hurricanes. So those things would have created disruptions along the way. But on a whole, I think we have done better than most.
Okay. When it comes down to crime and murders especially, right? Like, I'm on the reason, and I say, well, because of election year, like the government are implementing certain things for make sure the crime go down. Because, I mean, it's kind of ironic, right? When I've been in power for 9 years, and this is the year when, what I said, PMP is kind of closing the gap in a sense, and crime just go down. So it's like, when a bin could have put the effort, but we never put the effort until an election year.
Yeah, I mean, the cynic will say that, but that's not correct. First of all, gunman don't care whether it's election time or not, as a matter of fact.
But them care if police are going to kill them, because now this is one of the highest in terms of police killings.
Yeah, but you know, they care if they know, let me tell you what discourages crime. If you were to take a very intelligent approach, the probability of being caught, okay? When you are engaged in a process of deviant behavior, you don't say it, you know, but in your mind, if there is a better chance of your getting away with it than being apprehended, it discourages you from doing it. And if you are apprehended, you know there are consequences to that, whether it's jail time, or indeed, if you come with big gun is going to face you. Then it discourages crime. I think what we have been able to do, which is a process, is to improve the security forces, building out the 6,000 new police officers, better police stations, more vehicles, more intelligence. And so what the deviant mind, which is as bright as the law-abiding mind, people underestimate criminals. Some of them brighter than we, them use them intelligence, right? What they do is over time, we have demonstrated a capacity to apprehend and to respond. And that to me has discouraged crime. Now, yes, there are casualties of war. And it is a war. It is a war we're in. We cannot, as Bunting said, this is not a guardian business. This is a warrior, a fight. People were fearful, and we have been able to bring that down. Now, the fact that we're getting real tangible results in this year is a good thing. There have been many obstacles along the way, including opposition, by the opposition in Parliament to some of the things that we're doing. But What them say, better late than never.
That's true.
Better late than never is a good way to look at it too.
Yeah,
right?
but now you mentioned like people being apprehended. But then we see enough cases in Jamaica where yes, man them get catch, man them earn them remand and them go to court and them bust the case when I mean I'm not no judge, but it's clear that they were guilty, but the justice system has so much loopholes in that people are used and them a come back a road. Whether them get convicted now and then them bust the appeal later on. Because like for instance, there's certain I think at my house, this also in right now. It got burglarized a burglary at night, I said go, right? And them take what them take, and from report make, the police has never reached out back to us and said the man get catch. I know them get catch, but and then the police tell me, I just find up on my own. I don't know when I'm case, I don't know if who for be witness, I don't know nothing. So, and then when you look upon even a charge like that, this man terrorized the whole road.
Yes, I recall.
So you know the guy?
I live on the other stretch. I don't know the guy, but
I hear about it though.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, and terrorized the whole stretch.
Yes.
And by law, I think the most him can do is 18 months. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. So I say, one to the other side of it, because that's one side of the police, I'm to the justice side now, we can get the laws them together.
If he's caught with a firearm.
He wasn't, and he's that smart. He's that smart, he no roll with knife.
He's likely to get a lot more than that based on the new laws. But let me say, I think we always have to work, and the government has worked to things like digitize our court records and provide general improvement in the court system, change the laws for more stringent penalties and so on. All of that has been done. But at the end of it, we have to believe in the justice system and the capacity of our peers, whether it is at the highest level of a judge or our jury system, to determine innocent or guilt. That is a checks and balance in the system. And I agree with you, sometimes innocent people get convicted. Hopefully that is very rare. Sometimes guilty people get off too easy. But that guilty mind will eventually be apprehended one way or the other. So the point I'm making is that I wouldn't say it's a perfect system, but it's the best system we have. And what we have to do as government is to try to keep improving that process, because implicit in your argument, one hand you say we're killing people too much, and on the other hand you're saying, boy, some people get off too free. I wouldn't want to see people just uninhibited to just say you're guilty and you become the judge, jury, and executioner. That clearly would be a Wild West kind of scenario. But I think where we are now, when you look at the overall numbers and when you look at the justice system and the enforcement arm of government and the policies to support it, the Jamaica Labour Party has done really, really well. People are safer now. There's no as if some doubts about it. What we want them to know is to feel safer. And just think of the effects of that. More investment, more nightlife, more
tourism.
Everything would benefit. When you go into the diaspora, the biggest challenge that them raise is, boy, I don't feel safe when I come to Jamaica. No, if they can say things are moving in the right direction. And to me, that is an excellent platform on which to say to the Jamaican people, support us this time around, because at least we're heading in the right way and we have shown tangible results of that. The other people criticize us for it and they find all sorts of excuses. I think they're backing up the wrong tree. Because I don't know how you create an excuse for crime going down and then credit some and blame others when it has to be a team approach. But that's their problem. We think that we have done a lot and we have a lot more to do.
We on track to go below 1,000 murders this year?
Yep. Yes. In fact, we're looking at closer to 800, which is still 800 too much. But it's a far cry from 1,600.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? We have, based on last year's numbers, over 300 lives less loss, 3 plus 100. Oh, can you imagine the implications of that if it were the same? It's a logical position, but it's also a passionate, emotional position.
Okay. Now, corruption. That's been a big thing with the PNP campaign against the Jamaica Labour Party. And even in the debates, what kind of stood out to me, in particular your debate, is when Mr. Robinson said that he's not under investigation. Can anybody on the other panel confirm that they're not under investigation? No one rebutted those claims. Yeah. That as a citizen will be like, well, I mean, this man has said him clean, are you clean? And no one said anything.
Yeah. Well, you have to think of the debates as a kind of cut and thrust of discussion within time limits and so on. And there are some things that were said by Julian, who's my friend, a nice guy, that don't qualify you to be the best government though, or being government, just to be clear. But there are some things that were said by him and Peter that really are just fabrications, innuendos, rumors. It's a style of the opposition to just push things out in the air and hope that it stick and that they get some benefits from it. We have not really approached things like that. I don't know of any 11 illicit, whatever, investigation they're talking about. They seem to know something that I don't know. And I don't know how on what basis they would know it because they really ought not to have that kind of information. I'm not under investigation. So Sibonting put out a almost a libelous thing, or his people asking me about investigation and the Prime Minister. I could easily say I am not, but I'm not going to single myself out and spend my time wasting responding. I don't think the Jamaican people care as much about that. Not to say corruption isn't bad.
I would care about that.
No, hold on. Let me get it clear. I'm not saying that we should have a corrupt government, or certainly not saying that we do. We don't. Where there are issues of variation or deviant behavior or suspicion sufficient by evidence, the party has acted. The party has acted, whether it's to challenge those things, because you are entitled in a free country and with a system to challenge what you think is an unjust position on you, or, if necessary, removal from positions that they're in. And this government, this Prime Minister has done that. So let those things play out, because the system allows for that kind of contention. But to just get up and accuse people is wrong. And I think Julian, frankly speaking, is inappropriate when he does that, because he knows what he's doing. And Mark Golding did the same thing, by the way. He did the same thing. So we're not going to be distracted by that, even though we deny those things are in fact the case. We're going to focus on the achievements and what we're doing for the country, because we think ultimately, while people ought to be concerned about corruption, and we have done a lot to deal with corruption with the checks and balances, I think they're more concerned at this point in time about the water in the community, the job creation, the training for the young people, all of which we're doing, and the crime reduction. And I think that is what is going to impact their lives, their families, and their communities.
100%. And then now, debates again. First debate was the social issues. Raymond Price was just asking for you. Why weren't you at that debate instead of the finance debate?
I was kind of curious why I'm asking for me too, because
health was a big topic.
We had an excellent team there, and health did come up in the economic debate. One of the things that people don't understand, and maybe he's not so seized with it, or it was just opportunistic on his part. And I know Raymond is the economic impact of health. The biggest challenge we face as a country right now is productivity. And productivity is influenced by many things. We have done a lot to address productivity in terms of digitizing records, in terms of improving our highways and byways, in terms of security concerns. All of those adds to the cost of production. The human capital is by far the most important in terms of achieving productivity. And if you look at our sick profile as a country, sick people can't work, them take more day off. In fact, when you look at all the studies of the factors of production, it's a human capital that determines the most impact on productivity. So I could be in any other debates, clearly not the leaders' debate, but I could be in the social, I could be in the economic, I could be in a combination of both. The other thing I'd like to say is that they don't get a chance to pick our team. They can't send anybody they want to send. We pick our team. It's presumptuous and indeed out of order for them to be trying to determine who is on our team. We don't work like that. We're not working to their plan. They work to their plan, we work to our plan. And we think our plan worked well.
And then now, the Cornwall regional, that's a big topic, especially your name comes up a lot to us, right?
I'm the beating stick.
Yeah, why is it not finished?
The interesting thing about Cornwall regional, when I read the history, and I've spent time to go into the history, and it is, let me be clear, I am sympathetic and I empathize with the people who express concern, genuinely so. Not the people who are opportunistic and seeking political mileage, because the reality of the situation is that the people in Western Jamaica were made to suffer too long under the old administration because of the neglect around the maintenance of Cornwall. The challenge of Cornwall never started with us. It started probably 8-9 years before, and it just deteriorated, and then it collapsed. The collapse of it, I happened to be the man on the bridge, and I had to do a number of things. I had to build a hospital around the hospital to transfer all the services, because the alternative to that, with people on the road. Can you imagine you have a hospital with 400 odd people in beds, 500 people a day having outpatient services, and A&E where people are coming with wounds of all kind, and you shut it down? Where would you put the people in? What would happen? So we had to spend almost a year building out a hospital service around the main building, emptying out the main building, and then what we thought was an air conditioning issue morphed into an everything issue. Realized that the place was in a coma. So the rescoping that they claim as corruption from 2 billion to 20 billion or whatever is just that. We brought in experts from overseas. They did the costing, not me. I'm not an engineer.
What think about that though?
Yeah.
If somebody had built my house, right, and them say 2 billion, and then fall back and I say, what you about say? You know, say 22 billion or 20 billion. That's a big gap.
So let me tell you something. If you have an old house and you call an engineer or mason or whatever contractor and tell him say you want it renovated this way, and him give you a price today, I'm guaranteeing you that it won't be the same price by the time you finish. If you have built a new house, it's a different thing. What the government did was to take a conscious decision. When I said to them, listen, this place is far worse than it was, it's one of two things. Either you lick down the whole building, which would be far more expensive according to the overseas engineers, or you strip it down to bare minimum and then build it back. And that's the decision we took. That's how the rescoping price went. Now, the truth is, we're still getting a lot of value for money. If you compare that hospital with one overseas, the square footage cost is about 25-30% maximum of what it would cost to build a similar hospital in America, new hospital. So we're still getting a lot of value for money. The other thing that a lot of people don't appreciate fully is the fact that we had 3 years of not doing anything with COVID. So it's like you put it at a halt. For 3 years, you were more concerned about building COVID wards and saving lives than billing out. If we didn't lose those 3 years to COVID, we would have opened the hospital already. And then the third thing is, while I appreciate that people may be anxious, the services of Cornwall continues. We still see 500 people a day at the Seventh-day Adventist auditorium next door, outpatient. We still see hundreds a day at A&E. We built a new A&E. We still provide dialysis. We still have inpatient care. We do surgeries, elective surgeries down at Falmouth. So there are inconveniences I will fully appreciate. The final point is that the joy of the finish is going to be worth the wait. And that's where hope comes in. In another 6 months, you're going to see a hospital that is brand new, that with Western Child, 800 beds, more services, more specialty, more equipment. And if for no other reason, I'd like to be around to cut the ribbon because I think I've gotten most of the beat up over it. But it'd be well worth it for the people at Jamaica.
Yeah, I know. I respect that way you say, well, I say if you renovate and the price, but again, I think it's just the margin.
The difference, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, personally, if somebody give me something like that, I'm not doing it again. I'm so sorry.
I agree.
I'm not doing it again. I'll just scrap this and I'll just work the way I work.
I get you.
It's a big gap.
I get you. But the truth of the matter is that when you're dealing with government and the people and the projects that are necessary, when you think about it, we have never built a hospital. We haven't built a hospital in Jamaica for 30 years. Building a hospital is not building an apartment building. So even that needs to be clarified. And by the way, 3 or 4 billion of that is equipment. So it's not the building. Okay. Because we're putting all brand new equipment in the building.
You feel like you're transparent about that?
Yeah, man, of course. I've said it. And we have listen, we are subject to audits, The Auditor General and IC and all of them are in Cornwall. Every meeting them have, I'm told that the Integrity Commission is there, every decision made. So it's not something that we do in a closed room with grey suit men smoking a tobacco. Don't know smoking, it's not good for you. So it's a very transparent process. Now, will some of those variations be challenged and maybe you shouldn't do this? Listen, I understand how the process works and I've never said the process was perfect. In fact, it was a very imperfect process because you don't have a hospital that come to a grinding halt. What you do is maintain it or you depreciate it until you lick it down. That's the regular way you do a building like that. It's a 52-year-old building. A building supposed to last 50 years. 52 when it collapsed, but nothing was done with it. So, but hospitals are difficult. This government is the only government since independence that embarked on so many projects. And when you think about it, University Hospital is 14 billion, 80 million US. Spanish Town is 45 million US. Cornwall is what, 100 and maybe 100 or a little over 100. So when you really think about it, equipment and build out, hospitals are not cheap. And if you go to the US and check the cost per square foot, it's about 700 to 800 US dollar per square foot. We're building Cornwall back out at less than $300, $250 US per square foot. It is far cheaper than what it would entail elsewhere. But hospitals are special purpose buildings. It needs special equipment, special flooring for infection prevention. And it's hard to come to terms with for the average person. You would expect the opposition to come to terms and understand it when it's explained to them, but I don't think they want to understand. So it's just the battle that we'll have to
I'm going to ask the question I'm asking everybody. Is the case where you guys have to oppose certain things? Like, it's just like, all right, from PMP say, I just can't work with it. I have to find something to say.
I tell you, in this cut and thrust period now of election and decision making, you're not going to find a party agreeing much with the other. And it's probably one of the downsides to the democracy that we're part of. I have tried to be a moderate in my political work. I've recognized good things when I see it, and I have not been overly critical, even when once I think people are sincere. If people are discern a challenge or a risk or a excess, and they question it and challenge it, I think we have an obligation to respond and to provide information. If people are just talking and you can't say nothing to change them because them already in their mind decide say X and Y, then it's hard to argue with people like those. You kind of just allow them to do what they're doing. And in this process, you have hawks, you have moderates, and you're going to get a lot of noise. So generally, the general tendency is to oppose. I don't think it's the ideal scenario, but the people ultimately are intelligent, and I trust them to make up their mind and sieve through all of that and decide what should happen.
The drill.
Yeah.
Same thing again.
Yeah.
One price, and then we hear another price, and then the prices are just far apart.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have no technical competence in drill. The only drill I know about is the one that I buy at Hardware and Lumber and drill a little screw in on my wall for put up a painting. And I don't even know what the price of that is. I do believe that some people may equate a medical drill with a drill that we all are familiar with. It's a very different thing. What I will say is that the procurement of that item went through a process. It went through a process of being determined what is required. It's not just a drill, it's a medical drill with several parts that can do several procedures. Thousands of procedures, actually. Serious procedures with the spine and the brain. You don't put any drill in a man's brain, obviously, right? It has to be very precise. And the neurosurgeons who actually created the specs for it is what was advertised in the public space. And people bid on it. 3 bidders. One was totally out of whack. One was too expensive. The one in the middle one. The process went through procurement, went to PPC, was approved. All the processes were followed. Now, having done that and secured the product, there is talk that it could have been done cheaper because somebody went on the internet and decided that if them see something on the internet that say X, then that means it must be cheaper. The internet have all kind of things on it. I've read things on the internet about me that is a foreign. I wonder who people talking about.
Yeah.
And there are drills and there are drills. You go to a car mart, you can buy a Mercedes Benz or you can buy a Toyota Corolla. Both may be good cars, but they're different class in different category. So it is a foolish argument and an opportunistic argument. I think Dawes in particular went to the absurdity with some of his accusations. He's a doctor, but he's not a neurosurgeon. And there's a difference. Neurosurgeons are a high level of doctor.
Yeah.
And they know their craft. And it is they who decided on what they needed and they who influenced how and what was procured. But there's a process. If the IC or Auditor General or anybody else feel that there's an issue with it, let them go investigate it. It never took place in my office, it took place at the region. And I am not in procurement either at my office, the head office, or the region. So they're somehow pinning this on me and targeting me about a drill. is ridiculous, you know. But again, I don't waste my energy on some of those things. I give the explanation and I move on. And that's what we have done. The final point I'd say on that is that that drill, as I understand it from the neurosurgeons who use it at Bustamante, will save thousands of lives. And that's ultimately what, to me, is important. A lot of kids who need that kind of surgery, they would need that item. And that item is being used effectively and efficiently. And to me, that is my last kind of satisfaction, you know.
Babies, you know, you encourage people to have more babies.
Yes. How many you have?
None, not 2 dogs though.
Yeah, joke, man.
You want to dog them?
No, it's all right. No, I have a dog, right?
Yeah, me have 2. Right? But, all right, but look on that now. Babies, 2 things. We see the death of babies at Victoria Jubilee, and then now people, yes, unemployment is down, but people are still food insecure. Right? So how do we say let's start families, but yet still people can provide for them families? And then how can a woman feel safe to go in labor but using Jubilee of which is a free delivery, right? And them I say, well, me not trust if me will come out or my pitney will come out with me.
If me will come out, what do you mean by that?
As in like the time I'll leave the hospital alive.
Oh,
and then baby I'll leave with them. So how do we trust that we should start families?
Couple of things I say about that. First of all, you talk about food insecurity. People are less food insecure now than they were in 2015. I have to say it, right? Tis the season to compare and contrast. Poverty was higher in 2015 than it is today. People are more employed today. Now, you can argue about the quality of the employment. We have to start somewhere. The truth is, I get a salary every month, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're better off today, even though I think we still have some ways to go. Read the babies now on Victoria Jubilee. Victoria Jubilee delivers over 500 babies per month, 6,000 or so per year. It has fallen. There was a time they were doing twice that amount, but as you say, the birth rate has gone down. And it's something we really have to look at from a socioeconomic standpoint. I get into trouble by saying women must have more babies. Them cuss me and say, I have 3 and, you know, I love them.
And you could afford more. You don't think so?
Yeah, maybe I could. Who knows? You know, I'm still a young man, you know. No, this is not a public service announcement, by the way. But obviously, I don't mean people who can't afford it. I mean people who can. And the state has been there to give support where we can. But back to the point of Victoria Jubilee, they deliver 5 to 600 per month. 99.9% of them are well delivered. I tell you more than that a lot of people don't appreciate fully, which creates some of the risk with deliveries. Some of the mothers turn up at Victoria Jubilee when the baby literally come out, and too often, not all the times, but too often, especially if they're second and third time deliveries, they don't go to the health center until they're ready to give the baby out. The baby ready to push out. The umbilical cord can around the baby neck. The baby can turn upside down. The mother can be hypertensive, diabetic, which are high-risk pregnancies. So some people accuse me of blaming the mothers. I am not at all, because as I said, the vast majority are done well. And people leave Victoria Jubilee very happy with the service in terms of their delivery. The doctors are good, the nurses and so on. But there is a segment of the population, particularly in a high NCD profile, non-communicable disease, hypertension, diabetes. If as a mother, you're afflicted by one of these conditions, you have to control those conditions before you deliver. So what we have been doing is encouraging mothers to go to their health centers in the first, second, the trimester, leading up to the delivery. What we have seen is an increase in that by nearly 100%. Over 45% of the mothers now are going to the health center in their first trimester. And what that does, it profiles the mother. It supports them.
Yeah, who's high risk, who's not.
Exactly. So when they're ready to deliver, the chances of a bad delivery are much reduced. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have issues that you need to address, but they are far and few between. But unfortunately, when those issues occur, those are the ones that get played up. And what it does, it hits the confidence level in the institution, which is why we have put some systems in place to deal with the management of grievance. So we'd rather people go through the process than go to TVG or CVM or come to you, for example. Not because they're not entitled to do so in a free country, but because they deserve justice. If they think they are aggrieved, we must give them justice. But when you make it into a national thing, it kind of impact and make other people afraid. And that can be a challenge. It has always been a challenge in health. I've tried to manage that very carefully.
Yeah, but recently I interviewed Damian Crawford. He said that enough of the times people get help by going to the media.
Yeah, that may be the case. Damian is an interesting gentleman. By the way, I see him saying some things on platform. And I want to use this opportunity to say, him said that me and him used to have class at UA.
And nobody never got your class.
And nobody never got my class. Can I tell you that I was the one who hired Damian first to teach my class? When I entered representational politics, I offered him my marketing 20A class and make him take the class while I went to St. Elizabeth a campaign. So me and him in the same league. Me and the teacher, I'm the student.
But sometimes the student pass out the teacher.
Deliver that message for him for me.
Would you agree with that? So sometimes the student pass out the teacher.
Absolutely, but the teacher is always going to be the elder statesman who provide advice. By the way, ask him also, how him have a good farm in Portland. Portland are the most wet parish. Really, should I go St. Elizabeth, go have the goat farm? You'd have stand a better chance. Okay? I'm a friend still, so we can't jive.
I'm sure you have him number. So
you don't have a good farm in the wettest parish. Goat they like wet, they like hill about inside a Hudson. Anyway, back to what he said about the, you were saying about the, what were you asking me about what he said?
Oh my God, the media, yes, when people go to the
yeah. Yes, there is a view, and sometimes rightfully so, that the media brings attention and you get attention. And in some instances, that's the case. I would be lying if I said that's not the case. It's not a desirable position from our perspective, from my perspective, because I think that what the media does is blow up the perception around the issue. And beyond the specifics of that issue, it gives a confidence impression that, boy, we can't trust the system. It's 3 million visits we get to hospitals and health centers each year. We have nearly 200,000 people who spend 5 days or less in a hospital. 99% of them go home safe, when you really think about it. If you look at it from that perspective, very few of them are dispatched to the morgues. Them go home, doctor operate for them, doctor look after them. The NHF write 3 million prescription and give them. In 2015, it was 1 million. So I think the system works for more people than it doesn't. But room for improvement, no problem with that. And that's what we strive to do.
Back to the debate. In the Mark Golding and Prime Minister's debate, right? It's a big topic on social media. What makes you Jamaican, right? With this whole British citizenship. But it turns out that you guys have a British in your parliament. Matthew Samuda, I think he has given that up, and I think he got it by virtue of. I think he was born there.
Yeah. But clearly you don't determine where you're born. Mr. Siaga also was born outside of Jamaica. I think what the Prime Minister was referring to when he spoke in that debate, and it needs to be explained, is where your commitment lies. People, we're in a global village now. You can born anywhere, really, because we're so mobile, and we're so interracially connected that, my father was, not a Jamaican. I was born here, grew up here. I didn't even meet him till like 10 years ago. But it's out of the experience of where my mother was at the time, blah, 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 and so on, which I won't go into. So I think all of that is fair game. But I think the real point that people need to appreciate is if you remain committed by virtue of your allegiance with one jurisdiction, and you keep that intact, including your documentation and so on, that mixed allegiance may affect your ability to focus on who you represent. And ultimately, at the highest level as Prime Minister, it's what it's relevant. It's relevant to discuss it. So being born in a location doesn't necessarily make you committed to that location. And I think the point is that Mark Golding, based on his, when he got a Jamaican passport, the whole commitment.
But he went to school here.
Yeah, but again, that don't mean nothing.
What do you mean?
That don't mean nothing.
Why he have businesses here?
A lot of people go abroad, including in the diaspora, Jamaicans. And it's not that they love foreign, and foreign I use loosely. Most of them go to America, but they go other places. they still maintain their commitment to this rock. Every one of them want to own a house here. Every one of them want to come live here. Every one of them concerned if crime is high here. Every one of them concerned about them relatives and friends here. It's almost like, I keep saying to people, Jamaica is a nation state of 5 million. It's not a country of 2.8 million. Because most Jamaicans ultimately want to come back. They have more commitment, more allegiance to their land of their birth. Now, that is manifested in several ways. It manifests in the money that they send back to remittance, the house of them bill, or get them relative to bill. They fly home to come vote at election time, blah, blah, blah. What the point is about Mark Golden is that he needed to demonstrate a greater sense of commitment to Jamaica, even though I have no doubt that he loves Jamaica and, this is where he lives. I think there's a nuance point that the Prime Minister was making.
So I'm saying, again, so you think he was worthy to make that point?
Huh?
He was worthy to make that point?
Well, when you're in the debate, and points are being made, points are made. I mean, I made a point about bunting. I don't think, it is what it is.
That's a good point, though. I can't even lie. That was a good point. I can't even lie.
Right? Yeah, I mean, people might not like me for it, but it is a fact.
That's a
right?
good point.
But it's listen, at the end of the day, the people decide. They'll decide. I mean, Prime Minister, in his judgment and wisdom, thinks it was a good point. We support him.
So, all right, so let's say Matthew Samuda, right? A lot of people were praising him for how him handled his debate, and people that say, honestly, we can see a future Prime Minister in him. I would think it'd be unfair now for somebody to come and say, well, Matthew Samuda is British born, right? And he renounced it last year. I don't even know if it finished, so I can't speak on it.
Matthew's trajectory is far different from Mark Golden. Matthew is a young man.
So what's the difference?
He's 41, I would say probably relatively so. And he's a more recent comer to the politics. Mark has been in it for a much longer time, and Matthew is not the leader of a party seeking to be Prime Minister. Mark Golden is. There's a very tangible difference.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but doesn't Mark have businesses in Jamaica from Wapiki, Philip?
That don't mean business. Don't mean commitment. Some of the biggest business people don't even come to the country once.
He has kids here.
The owner digital live in Ireland. That is not
true. But he has kids here. He's married to a Jamaican woman.
Yeah, but
so I'm just saying.
But that don't mean.
I think the argument,
as important as that is to him, it don't mean anything. Plus, nobody knows Matthew's ambitions as to whether he want to be Prime Minister or not. In fairness, he would have to have expressed that. Mark's expressions through his actions or otherwise are clear. So, as a leader, he has to demonstrate that commitment. And I think it's fair game to ask him about it. I think it's fair game.
I guess. I think
it's fair game.
Now, in your guys' manifesto, you guys propose building out centers for domestic abusers victims, right? I think Babs did start already. Well, Mr. Grange, I'm not calling Babs, right?
Yeah, man.
But people say that's kind of hypocritical too, because you guys have a guy who's running for MP right now who was caught on video doing some domestic actions, right? And people are saying there was no punishment, this man should not be running. Where you say to those people?
Well, first of all, again, there, and I know this may sound like a cop-out, but, there is a process by which people are judged and a determination made. There was a video being circulated. There are speculations around who was in that video. I know most people have a particular perspective, but it was never brought to a process where a determination was made. If that determination was made, it would be a different outcome as it relates to the candidate. Beyond that candidate has, whether there are differences or not, he has demonstrated some commitment, both of them that were being speculated around, the woman, the female and him, around their own commitment to each other. I mean, they are now, I'm told, married and they have a family. I don't know if you have a quarrel with your girlfriend, but I've had several, right, with my partner. And it is a natural course of business. Not throwing benches or chairs or sticks or stones, but disagreements. But people reconcile. So I'm not saying it was. What I'm saying is based on their action, it suggests to me that they are coexisting, and
But that doesn't mean you're not guilty.
well, if you extend it to guilt, then we could point fingers all over the place. The gentleman who is running in Portland against Anne-Marie Vaz admits that.
Yeah, him do him time.
Exactly.
So that means the other guy don't do him time.
Do him time as he should, because the system threw him up as being guilty of something. So I am not, and this may be a personal view, while I believe that persons should be judged on their actions and the consequences should flow from actions, I do believe too that in reconciliation and rehabilitation. Because the truth is, as the Bible says, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, right? And the fact that you kick a man out a road or kick a dog, you're a dog lover, obviously, so you have two. Don't mean that I must tell you, so you must never own a dog unless you become a pattern of.
Is this person an MP?
Abusing a dog.
Is this person an MP? For sure.
Is what?
Is this person an MP who kick the dog? For sure.
Yeah.
So I have to be realistic, because at the end of the day, you guys have a different weight. You guys are actual leaders. You have a whole constituency, a whole country I look to you guys to lead. So when we see certain things like that, especially what we see with Jamaica go with this whole violence against women, they're at a disadvantage. So if I see that now, and then it's like the people don't feel like say, yes, nothing will happen. You mentioned reconciliation, right? Let's use Mason Greenwood. I don't know if you're familiar with football. That was a whole case. England now use him.
Yeah.
England done with the Manchester, but guess what? Him fire make a side on everything. But him and the young lady have two pitney right now, but that don't make it right.
Yeah. No, I am not saying if there is a case to be brought and the case was brought and you're found guilty, that you shouldn't have consequences. Don't get me wrong at all, because I abhor this domestic violence. I'm angry if I ever discern that children are being abused, partners, older people, seniors. As a matter of fact, I believe that nobody should have the right to abuse anybody. Because there's a process of people. If you feel aggrieved, you must engage the process. So I am with you on that. But again, I say in this specific case, we still don't really know. And the actions of the two people beyond that incident or alleged incident is that they are coexisting.
It's in 4K. It's not alleged. It's in 4K. It's not a video. It's in 4K. High definition. It can't play with a camera right now. I would see properly.
What I saw, I don't know if somebody, listen, I would think video out there that people doctor. I've seen videos of me that I can say it wasn't me. Remember the last election, them said me it involved in all kind of pornographic foolishness. And it was.
Didn't you say that?
There was a video.
Oh, yeah. But that wasn't you, though.
And I can say as Shaggy did, it wasn't me. Right. But they've used it against me. Unfortunately, you have all of that. Now, again, it's the whole incident is unfortunate, and we should all condemn any acts of violence against our women and against anybody for that matter. But again, based on what I see today, I see a candidate who, with his wife, who came on a platform, embrace each other and seem to be committed and loving, and I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt to coexist.
KD Knight, the voice note. Right?
It's a court matter, so I'm not talk much about it. But
all right.
If you ask, you can ask about something, and if I can't talk, but once something reaches a court, let the lawyers do the talking.
All right, that's fine. Okay.
What I can say, though, I never doctored any tape. I can say it categorically and upfront.
What would you say that the tape was doctored?
I don't, listen, I'm not in the business of determining if things are, I don't have that technical competence. But if anybody thinks that I would spend my time to go engineer the doctoring of a tape, then they don't know me. I'm not that kind of guy. That's not me. But, if there's a tape there and it has been all over the place, it's fair game in a political climate. And KD knows well, okay, he's a street fighter. As a matter of fact, he's kind of bombastic. Some may even say a bombastic bully.
Word.
But that's them. I'm saying that, make my lawyers do the talking and we take it from there. But I certainly never doctored any tape. I'm not in that business.
Rural bus system. Recently, I found out that this was proposed already from a previous minister, Rural Reid, and some 200 million, something. You know, I mean, I get into the numbers part.
Yeah.
But I will not get into the road risk and all that. But how do we hold politicians accountable? Because look upon it now, you know. Minister Grange mentioned the redevelopment of the National Stadium. That was promised from 2019. Same exact thing. Same, not a layout, but, you know, VIP, this, upgrading seating, and then when you look on the rural bus system now, we'll see it pop up again in an election year. So to me, to the undecided voter, to me, who is a supporter of the PMP, me I go say, well, no, but this just look like you want to get the vote now, then it's back to kick back, leg up, and then the promise with the same thing again one next election.
You know, how the political culture has evolved in Jamaica, there's always room for cynicism, and so I'm not discounting that possibility. There's also room for people to exploit good things and try to turn them into bad because it doesn't suit or it suits their political ambitions. And there's a lot at play, and some of it in those areas. But there's also a genuine, sincere explanation that the efforts have been made and the process has been put in place. The buses are here. They are being tested. People are benefiting or will benefit. You see it physically and tangibly. Now, let me tell you something about that people should accept and admit. Our democracy requires a decision making every 4 to 5 years. That decision influences to a large extent performance. Now, timing of performance sometimes may be coincidental. Sometimes it may be necessary. Ultimately, though, if the people are benefiting, I have no issues with it. The truth is, if the people of Jamaica, the children of Jamaica, get a rural bus system that never existed for years before, what is wrong with that? That's a very good thing.
I can't tell you what's wrong with
That's a very good thing.
Seems like you guys aiming for the recency bias, because think about it now, right? If you want your woman.
So let me ask you a question. The PNP not aim for recency bias with their 3.5.
Well, we're going to get to that. I promise you I'll get to that.
Which I know they can't afford.
And we're going to get to
right?
that. But may I ask you, right? If you there with that woman, and all along you say, I need this, I want this, I need this, I want this. And then she get word say you got a divorce lawyer, right? And then now all of a sudden she start cook, she start clean. I go say, but wait, you been could have do this. It's going to look like, say,
it's hard to buy into the kind of hypothetical stuff. But the truth is that the government announced they were going a rural bus system some time ago. They have made the process possible. The buses are here. The buses are being tested. I don't know why one would need to be cynical about that, except that when them roll out in September and you see how them operate, you're well entitled to be critical and say, boy, the bus never work, or the bus work, or maybe a route should go to that area versus that area. That is fair game to me. That's very fair game and should be expected by any government. But how can you criticize the implementation of something that is live, direct, tangible in front of you? They bus them here. People see them. Routes are being announced. That don't deserve criticism. If the opposition really backing up the wrong tree now. They're backing up the, which I don't mind. Okay? It is a good timing for them to back up the wrong tree. But the truth is, that's not something you criticize. You allow it and make it go through. And then when it start work, you can dissect it and make a comment on it. But their timing is also...
with the taxing.
No, their timing, they're trying to take an advantage of the timing too by being critical. Although I think it is ill-advised. So they can't see anything good coming out of the government at this time, because if it's good, it means the government have an advantage. But I trust the discerning nature of the Jamaican people. I think they are more concerned. They'll determine what is nonsense.
They will. That's the greatest thing.
That's the greatest thing. That's the greatest thing.
3.5.
Yeah.
I'm not a numbers guy. You see me? There's no numbers like this. If I buy something, and then I sell it back for a higher price, but make a profit.
Yeah.
Me that. Tell me why the PMP can't afford to do this.
Because it's going to cost them at least 75 billion, based on the calculations. And if you add some of the other things that they're offering, maybe 100 billion. And they have not explained it, one. But secondly, they have been flip-flopping worse on the issue. I mean, my good friend Julian, I say he's my good friend, he's a decent guy, right? Him up to yesterday, he was changing his story on it. Him say we're going to do it from organic growth. Then yesterday him say you'll do it from primary surplus. I won't get into complicated discussion, but the long and short of it is that it projects so much uncertainty. It's almost like they pull. And by the way, the other thing about it is that they had objected to 1.5. They had proposed 3. They had proposed 3.0. Then Mark says him not so sure. It was them not have access to the numbers. Then put out a manifesto that never had it. Then they put out a baby manifesto. And even before the baby manifesto, them just announced it at a meeting almost off the cuff. It sounds to me like an incoherent strategy, not grounded in any research, not grounded in any sort of vision or any commitment to anything, just about the votes. And I in the very unlikely event, and I trust the people of Jamaica, that they were to try to implement something like that, I think it'll be absolute confusion. And based on their legacy, it would put the country back, because that's a party that has brought more debt and taxes. We haven't had taxes in 8-9 years. Debt and taxes, tax and spend, borrow and spend. And what we need to appreciate is that tax and spend and borrow and spend, meaning there's less for schools, for roads, so this primary surplus thing that they're talking about, they want to spend off the rent money, basically, as the Prime Minister say. So it's an irresponsible proposition. The principle of people paying less taxes, let me be clear, we don't have a problem with, because we have done it. And it is true that it's better people use their money the way they want to use it. If they want to buy a house, then buy a house. If they want to buy a car, then buy a car. And they pay more taxes on the consumption side. But the way they have gone about it and the commitments they have made to get it implemented is impractical and unrealistic, and it's not thought out. And it's another indication that they are just grasping at straws to get the vote. And it's highly irresponsible. Juxtapose that against us. We have been very careful in terms of our spend. That's why we have a surplus. That's why we have all the achievements that we have had, and we haven't raised taxes. And I just think that the choice is clear. We are a more responsible government.
Yeah, but Damien again said that you guys, it was cost more for the 15%.
No, that's not true. Our 15%, I believe, is somewhere in the region of 25 billion or somewhere in that region. Theirs is 75. Our thing is a little more nuanced in terms of how it will evolve, but it is the responsible thing to do. And if Jamaicans are not paying more taxes, they have more resources. If they're getting more jobs, they have more money in their pocket. It is the responsible thing to do. And I don't think we can emphasize that enough.
So this campaign now, right? It's called September 3rd is like, how much days? How much days?
A few days.
Few days, right?
A few days ago.
If you guys are re-elected, what can the Jamaican people say? It's just a continuation on what you guys have already done?
No, there's a lot of things. We put out a manifesto which has a number of things. Time won't allow to go through all of them. But first of all, what is already being done is very positive, and a continuation of some of those are necessary, because some of them are still a work in progress. Stability in our society is very necessary. Every time the dollar devalue or inflation goes up, it eats into your spending power. And what we have been able to do is stabilize the economy, and we must not underestimate the need for that. So the central bank's role, the Ministry of Finance, how we spend, what we spend on. The unfinished projects are very important, finishing up all these hospitals. I mean, I don't know if the PNP would know the first thing to do about building out a new KPH or Bernard Lodge, or even many of the other things that we're doing in health. They would have to start from scratch. But there are other things that we have added, things about housing and young people and affordability. 15% of housing developments, NHT, Finance Star, reserved for a certain age cohort. They reduce interest on houses if you're in the public sector, 1% for 5 years, 2% if you're there in the public system for 10 years, which gives them more opportunity to own a home. Home is a big thing. The improvements in hard training, which allows you to train up to a tertiary level and benefit literally being paid to train. And I could go on and on. But so there is a lot more to come. What we have done is leverage our performance over the last 9 years to say we're building on that and we're adding these things to it. And I think it's a responsible way to do it, and we're comfortable that we're doing the right thing.
I got it. You mentioned education, and we thought the Minister of Education said that we'll have an increase in maths, and then Crawford come and say it's just really just 9 people.
Is what?
It's just 9 people. 9 more people pass maths.
I don't know about that. I didn't hear the interview, and I can't comment on what I didn't hear. But we have had an increase. Do we need more increase? Yes. The truth is, our education reform program, which has taken persons who are deficient and giving them the kind of remedial approach, our support with infrastructure, our support to teachers and so on, are unprecedented. But we do agree that the education system needs the reform and to focus more on some of these core areas. The STEM program is also expanding. So, again, he can criticize because he's in the business of doing that at this point in time. But when they were there, it was worse. And that's just a simple
But that was
fact.
9 years ago, though.
Well, it's worth saying because a lot of people don't have a reference point. And when I tell people that in 2015, there was told people that the health system was in crisis and they have to use black garbage bag as aprons. A lot of people in the system now, when there was talk about crisis, it rings hollow because he's hyperbolic. It's the worst system ever, but him on tape, on record, not audio alone, but video, saying that 2015 was the worst. They might cut soap for you. Nobody use garbage bag, nobody that cut soap. Even some of the doctors in the system, the young doctors, don't have a reference point, because they were in high school, some of them. And so now they finished doctoring them in the system. Then say, boy, we are so deficient. But where we're coming from, we are better off today than we were back then. And unfortunately, or fortunately for us, we can't just talk in isolation. Context is very important. And we have to use the base year when we started. So 2015 is a very relevant year for us in terms of the campaign.
Yeah. In the debates, and even with like a JLP supporter, a PNP supporter, at what point you feel like we have like a cutoff for reference, as you said? Like sometimes me and man talk about Manly or Siag, and I'm like, we'll get it, we'll talk about it, but I can't hold what Edward Siaga do to Mr. Holness do, or what PG do to Mr. Mark Golden do. So I'm just saying, at what point do we say, here what? We have a whole new cabinet, we have a whole new set of people, whole new leaders. I understand the principles are the same, but at what point do we say we cannot mention certain people because that they don't got?
Well, officially, we haven't spent a lot of time on that. The official campaign has been more on the achievements of the government and the future, so where we want to take the country. But context is important because a country evolves and the management of a country evolves. We have to start somewhere, and we did start somewhere. We're a relatively short democracy now. Since adult suffrage come through, but since independence in particular, 62, it's not a long period to assess the eras and what threw us off. The 1970s threw us off badly, and people need to appreciate that. The FinSAC years of the 90s and early 2000s, where we wiped out almost 40% of our economy. We're paying back, the FinSAC thing, where, banks were offering interest rates of over 40%, where DB&G made over 40% of their return.
I forgot to drop the report. They must have dropped the report, though.
Yeah, the report is on the website, or the data is on the website. I don't know why they keep asking for a report. It's there. They can go interrogate it. Don't look good for them, but they can interrogate it. So those are relevant issues. When you think about FinSAC, for example, Mark Golden and Peter Bunting are 2 senior members of the PNP right now. They kind of have some sort of explanation to do. And are they going to take the same philosophy to government, to governance, to resources that they took to during the FinSAC period? No, listen, understand business. Them see an opportunity to make money and they make some money. But the truth is, they talk about corruption. the contractor general at the time, now the IC, said that they were involved in sweetheart deals. Why shouldn't we interrogate them on that? And they think they reserve the right to interrogate everybody else. They were accused of being engaged, Greg Christie did it, in sweetheart deals. They made most of their money during the FinSac period, while 40,000 businesses lost theirs. Some people even commit suicide. They should be interrogated because they are now the people on the bridge representing a party that wants to lead the country. I don't think that is
But why it took so long?
not relevant to do.
I agree with you, but why it took so long? Because Mr. One thing been in politics for quite a while.
Took long to do what? To interrogate
No,
him?
for this to come up. Like, you can't tell us that I'm this big political person.
Yeah,
like,
it comes up in elections, but it's more relevant now, I think, today than before, because Mark Golden is the leader of his party, and Peter Bunting is the leader of the government opposition business Senate. He clearly carries a lot of weight, and he also talks a lot.
Or is it because they're saying that Mr. Holness is corrupt?
People of everything, you're obligated to explain yourself too.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it because now like they're pushing and saying that Mr. Holness is corrupt?
It's well, as I said, they talk a lot, and the PNP's campaign is a very angry campaign, which for me is disappointing, and maybe I don't know if it's surprising. They spend more time cussing and tearing down everybody than actually looking on a path towards the future. I don't think the Jamaican people really like that or want that.
Jamaicans?
No, they like drama.
Yeah.
but we like drama and we like veranda talk, all of us. But the reality is that we can sieve through that as entertainment and know the difference between that and what's in our best interest. So it's not the loudest man in the room. You need to tell Damien that get the most attention. Is the man who talk what is important to people and what impacts people. Shouting alone, not really, right? And it's not the comedian or the comedy in you that draws the attention that generates a response. And that's a lesson to him from the teacher.
From the teacher.
I'm the teacher, right? And him is a student still. I'm sure he'll laugh at that. And after the election, we'll have a drink and chat about it. It's fine, But the issues of context and a serious conversation about the next 5 years is what I think has characterized our campaign. Yeah, we take a few jobs here and there. That's fine, fair game for the platform. But the key focus is what's important to people.
And one last question is, what we can do for hold politicians accountable? Like, we really would have liked something where, like, the citizens are, people of your constituency, if you say, here, you promise this and you give you this time, I will understand life. Everybody understand life. You say you're going to buy a house when you're 25, you're 45, and you're still not buying a house, but life is life. But you have to talk about to the people and say, listen, this happened, and full transparency why this not get started. How can we build that so we don't have to do this every election?
The ultimate accountability portal for the politicians is the 5-year term in office. If people feel that we're so discredited, they can boot us out. The electoral process is fairly clean and safe. It's coming a long way, but it's good. So the one man, one vote for the most part is there. And if people don't have confidence in Andrew Holness, then they'll express that on the 3rd. I suspect they do, and they'll say otherwise. They'll express confidence in him. The same applies for constituencies. I've lost a seat by 13. I've won a seat by 5,000. So I know the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, right? And I learned the lessons from those things. Beyond that, though, there are accountability structures in place at the level of the Auditor General, the Contractor General, a whole host of things that can be done to hold people accountable, and the parliamentary process. So even though sometimes you hear the open noise there, it does offer an opportunity, if you have an effective opposition, to challenge government and to expose things, and that's how the democracy should work. So sometimes that cut and thrust and even quarreling is not a bad thing, because it highlights the issues and it informs the public, and then the public can make a decision from there. What you don't want is withdrawal, apathy. And to my mind, apathy is the greatest threat to democracy. When people stay out of the system, you really want a participatory democracy where the voters see a vested interest in going out to vote. And I would urge them to go out and vote this time, because the truth is, a lot depends on it. We're at a crossroads and we need to continue to work. So, whatever party them vote for in the past, the truth is the JLP is the right choice now. And the security and confidentiality of the vote is also important, because there's a rumor now that people will know who you vote for. Now, it's foolishness. If you go behind the curtain and mark your X properly and put it in the box, nobody know who you vote for.
Sure. So high school used to go?
Huh?
So high school?
The best in Jamaica.
Sure.
Manchester High.
I don't know that. Yeah, but then question
everybody else had number two. Everybody else had number two. The town man like we think the whole school better than what.
No, he's asking any questions.
Oh, if any questions I have?
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it's a question, but I'd close by saying that the election is not so much about the rhetoric that is emanating from the different quarters. The election is about what is in your best interest and your family's best interest, your community's best interest. And my view on it, and maybe people might say I'm biased, but if you look at the achievements of the Jamaican Labour Party in the last 9 years, that's really what matters. It's not which account Andrew have and which this, that, and which this, and when, it's really about how your community are going to improve. The water that you need, the road that you need, the security that you need to feel, the job prospects, the training, the opportunity to own a house. Those to me are the real issues, despite all the comedy and the theatrics and the aggression that is characterizing some of it. And that's what I urge Jamaican people to look at. And I believe if they did that, the choice is clear that the JLP has an advantage and should be given the opportunity to continue. Now, we're not where we want to be, just to be clear. So not everybody is satisfied or fully satisfied, but everybody can relate to crime, right? Everybody can relate to the fact that if they need to be trained, they can be trained.
And nobody know I'm hungry.
And nobody know I'm hungry. Everybody can get a job. The skill is important for a proper job, and that's why we have to encourage it. So we live to fight another day, my brother, and we go on. And
again.
I appreciate it, and I will say
on
this program today that he has been the most objective interviewer. So don't blame him for me, please. All right?
Thank you.
Just give it the third term and everything all right. All right?
Let's be honest. Oh, God.